I want to talk about a video game I played this week, if that's all
Uh,
right. I got one
I
of
don't
them.
know. You know what? Yeah, yeah. Go on, treat
Yeah, yeah.
yourself.
So I've started playing Life Eater, which is the new game from the person behind El Paso Elsewhere.
Oh,
Yeah, so they've got a new game out, and the best, like, couple of word description I can give you for it is spreadsheet management serial killer simulator. The gist of it is you are playing as some like guy in like deep South America, you sort of trucker hat wearing, sleeveless shirt, kind of American flag waving type of guy, who one day about 20 years ago, he met God. God reached out to him. And he's like, hey, I'm Zimforth. The world will end if you do not sacrifice in ritual murder to me once a year. I'm going to get a bit particular. I want it done a certain way. Sometimes I'll give you vague hints about who needs killing. And the world will literally end if you do not go do murders for me. I am Zimforth.
oh.
Don't test me. So it is a game of a man spending 20 years just like, in between he just lives his life, and about once a year Zimforth will send a message down and go, hey, this year I want someone who won't be missed. Find them. Go do a kill on them. But for a game that is theoretically about serial ritual murder for evil god, it is a very not gory, it's a very mundane game. Because the gameplay itself is largely kind of spreadsheet management.
Mm.
So you have a list of things that you will always need to work out about your targets in order to complete the ritual for Zimforth correctly. It'll be things like, does your target sleep less than 6 hours per night? If so, break the third rib. Do they have black hair? Break rib 11. If not, remove the left lung.
Fuck
There's a
me.
there's there's a little list of things like this that you've got to learn the things about your target. And the way that you do that is that you have essentially a week of their life in little blocks, and it looks like a video editor. And you're clicking on clips in the video editor and basically making the decision between, do you want to spend more time trying to uncover this block of what that person's doing with their week in that block of time, or do you want to risk being noticed? You've got a balancing act of, you've got a certain amount of time and a certain amount of suspicion that can grow on you, otherwise you'll fail. So you're trying to balance, oh, maybe I'll knock on the door and run away. That's a quick thing I can do, but it will be suspicious. Or maybe I can do installing a keylogger on their computer. It's going to take a lot of time, but they, maybe won't be so suspicious. To uncover these chunks of what their week is, to answer these questions, like, do they have a commute to work? Do they take more than 2 bathroom breaks a day? Do they have children? Do they live alone? Until you have enough evidence to go, I'm going to do that kill, and be able to do the ritual to do with it correctly. And as you go through, none of the things you have to do in the ritual change. Like, the list of things you have to find out about a person is pretty consistent, but you are having to have slightly more complicated situations where it's like, okay, here's like one of 3 suspected people. Not only are you trying to find out all the stuff for the ritual, but you've got to work out which of these 3 people doesn't have a job and is considered slothful by Zimforth. And you've still only got the certain amount of time, so you're having to like be very strategic about which blocks of time you unlock to try and as quickly as possible rule people out as not the target you're looking for, in order to do these ritual killings to stave off the end of the world for another year.
I am so excited by this premise, and I feel like I saw it somewhere or someone mentioned it because the name and like the sacrificing element is somewhat familiar. That part of it was an idea that I was seriously thinking about trying to develop into like a series of like a short series of tabletop for Dice Funk, centered around
Nice.
that, kind of, every year sacrifice of the community type thing. But the other thing, and this blows my mind, because that process of elimination, determining who the person, about, I don't know, 10 or so years ago, I wanted to start work on like an office drama where you are contacted by some kind of future organization that's like, hey, one of these people that you're working with has been replaced by a robot, and you have to figure out who it is before they can perform their assassination mission and change the future. And it was a similar sort of, working in the office, talking to people to figure out who meets the criteria to be a robot. And so this is, in essence, that same idea. And so I'm really keen to play it since I don't have to make it.
Yes, and the comparisons to, like, office drama, I think, is a really good way to put it, because so much of this is about everything. All these people you're observing are living very mundane lives. None of this is, oh, go and work out, like, oh, that person deserves it because X, Y, or Z. It's all trawling through very boring lives, looking for tiny little things you can learn something from. I did one of them earlier today, where it was, oh no, you know who your target is, it's that person, but they're in a hospital and just sleeping all day. You have to look at everyone else's schedules and work out when he's left alone for a minute, and that's when you so that you can find a time to kill him. And it's all just, you can go through his timeline, and every single thing you uncover is sleep, then he slept some more, then some more sleep, then some more sleep. It really does paint this story of, like, detached observation of unspectacular lives in this big dramatic narrative. The other thing that I think is worth talking about is there is another narrative thread that is told through cutscenes as the years jump forward between each murder. And without saying too much, at some point, your character is witnessed doing a ritual murder and has to capture the person who's witnessed him do the crime, and he basically locks him in a cage. And he's like, can't let you out, because then you'll go tell the police, and they'll stop me murdering people for Zimforth, and the world will end.
Makes
I
sense.
hope you understand. I don't intend to kill you. I want to be nice to you. I want to give you a good life, but also, I can't let you stop me killing people, or Zimforth will end the world.
Oh, that's Zimforth.
Oh, that's Zimforth. So in between each, like, time it jumps forward a year, you have these little vignettes of a captor who knows he's doing something wrong by holding this man captive in a cage, but does not feel that he should stop doing the murders he is doing, and that is torn between, I am having to keep you trapped, and I know that's not right, but I'm not killing you, I'm not a bad person, I'm not killing you, Zimforth hasn't told me I have to kill you to save the world. And this weird, strange relationship between captor and forced observer. It is a very well-written game that ping-pongs between, like, deeply uncomfortable interactions and detached interactions with things that should not be as mundane as they are, in a way that, like, is very impressive. My two things I would say to be aware of with this game is, first of all, this game wants you to have a degree of ability to hold information in your head. Be that when you're on the video editing timeline trying to find all the clues that will help you do the ritual for Zimforth, you need to be able to remember what all the criteria that Zimforth is looking for is, so that you don't go into the ritual and go, oh fuck, I forgot to check for that thing. Equally, when you're in doing the ritual, clicking on the things that you're going to remove or chop up or whatever, you need to be able to remember the answers that you saw when you were doing the video editing bit. And that's the thing I struggle with. Initially, my temptation was to think I might need to play this with a notebook, and I did stop at the thought of, am I going to have a notebook that's like, okay, break rib 3 because less than 6 hours sleep, and a list of, like, names and times they did things. Ultimately, I found, like, playing this on my work PC with a screenshot of the ritual screen captured and on my other monitor was enough that, like, if I didn't have to hold one in my head, I could reference the other and sort of do it okay. But if you struggle with remembering what you need to check for and then remembering the answers when you're inputting it, you might struggle a bit with this. The other thing I will say is, I haven't quite finished this yet, but I am very, very, very curious how they're going to end this game, because I think this is spoiler-free to say, because this is a concern I had right from the start of the game. Anytime you have a narrative about someone doing violent crime on behalf of a god, it's very easy for the answer to that to be, oh, God wasn't telling them to do that, and the world wasn't going to end if they didn't do the murders, they were just mentally ill. Oh, look at the scary mentally ill person doing a bunch of murders because he's mentally ill. And I don't know if that's where they're going, or if, they're gonna canonically make it that, Zimforth was real and was threatening to end the world, or if they're just gonna be very vague about what the reality was. With any narrative touching on these kind of themes, that's always my, caution point that I'm kind of concerned about.
Yeah.
And I want to know where they land that. Because it wouldn't be the first time. Like, me and Jane played a escape room board game box maybe a year or two back. That literally that was the premise, was that it turned out like, oh, you were just mentally ill the whole time. And it's like, that's not a fun answer
No.
to a thing like this.
I mean, it's boring. Like, at this point,
Yeah.
like, even leaving aside the stigmatization, which is, obviously a very valid thing, it's such a boring trope. Like, can you not think of anything original other than, oh, turns out they were crazy? Like, come on.
And here's the thing, with this developer and having played like El Paso elsewhere, my gut says they're better than that. And that's probably not where this is going to go.
I would be very disappointed if they didn't.
I would be disappointed and surprised if that was where it was going, but
Yeah.
also I haven't gotten there, and I feel like if I'm going to say that this game is interesting and worth checking out, I don't yet know whether I would ultimately kind of caveat that.
Yeah.
So bear that possibility in mind, and that I don't know the answer to it, but it is a really interesting, unique little game that does a great job of making something that should be very personal and visceral feel very detached and methodical in a way that serves its narrative very well. So yeah, that's Life Eater.
Life Eater? I mean, the premise sounds utterly fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very glad that I've checked it out.